Welcome to the audio fiction podcast, The History Singer, written, produced, and voiced by me, your host, Jan Nichols. You should know that the story is told in sequential order, so start with 101 and carry on. Also, The History Singer is written in changing first-person narrative. From time to time, you'll hear me say a character's name. That's your cue that the following section is from that person's perspective. And now, our story continues. Aria Grace. I awoke with a start. Needles assaulted the back of my head. Then I heard Soba speaking softly to someone. "Hold her steady, Demos. I'm almost done." My voice sounded weak and whispery. "Ow! It hurts," I said, followed by a childlike snuffling wail. Demos stroked my shoulder, calming me as if I were a skittish colt. He was facing me, holding me upright, while Soba continued to stab the back of my head. Mercifully, I passed out. The next time I awoke, leaf shadows danced against the canvas walls of the wagon. My mouth was dry, my throat scratchy, and my head throbbed in rhythm with each beat of my heart. The steps to the wagon creaked as Soba came in with a steaming cup of something. She stuffed pillows behind my back and helped me to a semi-sitting position. "Here," she said, wrapping my hands around the tea bowl. "This will help the pain." It was hard to swallow, like I'd lost the knack of it. I took a long time to finish, one small sip after another, while Soba sat cross-legged on the floor, weaving dried rushes into a basket. Soba was Artosi-born, people of the great grasslands known for their intricate braided weaving. "River moss," Soba muttered. "How did Toby know to pack that cut on your brow with it?" She closed her eyes to retrieve a memory as her fingers kept on with the braiding. "That is Skola learning." Soba pursed her mouth into a fine line, holding back the questions she wanted to ask. "The gouge above your eyebrow is healing nicely," she said, her voice a murmur as if speaking to herself. I winced as she gently probed the stitches at the back of my head. "This may sting a little," Soba said, as the back of my head caught fire. "That," I rasped out, "was not a sting." I tried to glare at Soba, but my eyes wouldn't cooperate. Everything looked soft, wrapped in a fuzzy glow, but I could see enough to know that Soba looked worried. She applied a clean dressing and, after fussing with the bed covers, sat stroking my hand until the world fell away and I plummeted into sleep once again. The next time I awoke, morning sun filtered through the wagon's canvas-like cover. I didn't move, enjoying the absence of pain. Someone said my name. As I turned my head to look, a rush of dizziness and nausea overwhelmed me. Strong, capable hands stuffed pillows behind my back and neck to create a cradle for my head. I knew that touch. It belonged to someone nice, someone I knew. "Eliphus, you're back!" "Yes," Eliphus said, as he adjusted the light filter to darken the wagon's interior. "I returned from River's End last night, but you have a more interesting story to tell." "Oh, Eliphus," I sighed. My words came out in a rush, tumbling over one another. "I think I'm going mad," as I stammered out the next part. I sang for a dead man, but he was actually alive. I mean, he signed asking me to sing, and there was another man, a living man, who introduced himself, but I can't remember his name." I paused, realizing how crazy I sounded, wondering, is it possible I imagined a dead man and a living one? Eliphus cupped my hand in his, long-fingered bones elegant in spite of the calluses. You are not mad, nor are you imagining things. He exhaled sharply before saying, Soba told me that you have a severe concussion, and she warned me not to burden you with too much talk for the time being. And you know that Soba's tongue can cut the flesh off a man's face. His mouth quirked up at the corners, a faint imitation of his usual smile. Rest now, Aria. When you are better, we will speak of your adventure. I wanted to protest, sensing that Eliphus was holding something back, but my mind wandered away, and the weight of my lashes forced my eyes to close. My final thought before sleep was of the man whose name I couldn't recall. But I remembered his eyes. They were gray. Somehow they caught the light and spun it back as a rainbow, like fish scales in the sun. Xander Bikanyi. I slipped away from the camp once Demos had lifted the girl down and the boy dismounted. It was a trick I learned from the Blue Veils. They were formidable warriors from the great desert land they called the Halmahara, though they reported to the Skaldit Baine they had little respect for them. They had taught me how to stand very still and turn my body flat. It worked best if there was a distraction, like the dramatic return to camp. Standing back behind Xanthi's left flank, I watched as everyone flocked to the girl, touching her, taking her hand, feeling her brow for fever. The boy stood apart until Soba said something to him. Then I walked across the clearing and into the woods, with Xanthi's following. Xanthi snuffled the back of my neck as we worked our way through the brushy undergrowth to the place where the decomp had appeared. It was easy to see where it had stumbled and fallen. The coarse reedy grass was flattened, and the faint odor of a long-dead thing lingered. "This is a fine riddle," I said to Xanthi's, crouching to look for tracks left by the decomp. I tracked it as far as the river before losing the trail. The sun was starting its descent as Xanthi's and I walked downriver to the place where I had left my gear. I tended Xanthi's with a good brushing and picked out his feet to remove dirt and debris. I held the feed bag of rolled oats I had packed just for the pleasure of seeing his enjoyment. I kept a cold camp, no point in attracting a decomp with a welcoming fire, I thought. Eating a shriveled apple with bread and a bit of cheese, I began to work my way through the day's events. Sebastian, I thought. Why did the high priest of the Skaldit Baine and a powerful member of the Learned Council send me to escort a troop of players and entertainers to Vrenholm? He had used me for this kind of work before. In Sebastian's mind, this was intelligence work, essential to the safety of the realm. I preferred plainer speech. I was here to spy, to listen and learn secret things, things that Sebastian would find useful. This has something to do with Eliphus. My hands were clenched tight, fists ready to fight. Looking up, I saw that a scattering of stars had emerged, the same stars I had seen the night I was ripped from my family. I was third-born, and all thirds were marked as tek tithes, given to the Learned Council in exchange for tek-made medicine, seeds, and tools. That was the night I met Eliphus. I was about 5 years old, helpless and furious at my helplessness. Eliphus served on the Learned Council, a governing body of 12. Half were members of the benevolent. They ran the scholas, kept the archives, and studied histories of the before time and the ancient times before that. The other half of the Learned Council were members of the Skaldit Baine, ancient Latin for the scalded hand, named for the brand that was burned into the palms of those who chose to become acolytes at their majority of 16 years. Eliphus was kind, or so I thought at the time. He taught me to read and write in the Latin, Greek, and Com, a polyglot tongue used for commerce. During the first few months, I ran away as often as chance allowed. I was adept at climbing, and there were plenty of toe and finger holes to help me slither down the chipped brick of even the tallest towers. Eliphus always brought me back. He never beat me as some of the other meisters did. Instead, he captured my mind with learning, histories of the before time, poetry of the long dead and mostly forgotten, astronomy, even some geometry, though the Skaldit Baine guarded the secrets of advanced mathematics, science, and tech. At 10 years, I was tall with a sullen demeanor that made me look older than I was. That was when Eliphus betrayed me. On a winter night, when the stars glittered and shivered with the cold, Eliphus came to my cubby in the Schola dormitory. He spoke in a harsh whisper. He's angry, I thought, but at whom? Me? He told me I was to complete my education with the Skaldit Baine. Keep yourself to yourself and trust no one, Eliphus said. He leaned in close as if to kiss my cheek. Speaking fiercely, he said, I have persuaded my learned council brethren that you may partake in the ancient rite of Trinity training, if you choose. It is a hard path, but it is the only path that will free you from obligation to both the Skaldit Baine and the benevolent. He paused and took in a ragged breath. Then he did kiss my cheek, whispering, I am sorry to leave you to the torments and tyranny of senior acolytes. But something important has happened, and I am needed elsewhere. Stay alive, Rin. Remember, I will get you back. No matter how long it takes, I will get you back. Eliphus stood and strode away down the long dormitory hall, with its arched windows letting in enough light that I could see 2 Skaldit Baine acolytes. They passed him as they came for me. This is pointless, I said, surprised that I had spoken aloud. I need more information, and Eliphus is the place to get it. Aria Grace. I awakened to the loud jangling of horses and their belled harnesses. It was the wheelwright bringing the repaired wagon wheel. Looking at the angle of sunlight on my covers, I thought it must be mid-morning. Soba offered the hospitality of our camp, but I heard the driver say something about strange goings-on hereabouts and his desire to return to River's End before sundown. My mouth felt like the inside of a haystack, dry and dusty, with a disgusting overlay of throw-up. I pushed myself upright against the pillows. When my head didn't explode, I swung my legs over the edge of the bunk to let them dangle. This is going well, I thought. So I stood up. That's when the walls decided to twirl round and round. I kept to my feet, swaying until the room settled. Throwing a paisley shawl over my night shift, I tottered to the doorway, sitting down hard on the uppermost step. Squinting against the morning light, I saw a man entering the camp, leading an enormous war horse. Xanthes, that's his name, the horse's name. But the solemn-looking man holding the reins was an enigma. He was there, I thought. He saw the dead man. Or maybe I imagined them both, the man with the horse and the man with the maggots where his eyebrow should have been. I cupped my hands over both eyes to block the light that made my head ache. "Morning's greetings to you, my lady." The man's voice jerked my head upright, as surely as a leash pulls a dog. "You're real," I said, sounding like an idiot. "Much to the dismay of many," he said, "I am quite real." Dismounting with a fluid grace, he closed the distance between us in a few strides. He uncapped a metal-worked flask and held it out to me. As if sensing my hesitation, he said, "It's water. You don't look well." I stood up without thinking as anger brought his name to my tongue. "Ser Xander Bikanyi, it must be difficult for you to be absent from Renatus, where women meet your standards of beauty." My insult would have been more effective if my voice hadn't croaked like a frog with laryngitis. "My lady," Bacanyi inclined his head, "I meant no insult. You have been ill, and you look it." Uncommon though it was, I was at a loss for words. So I accepted the canteen and sipped, cautiously at first, followed by long and repeated swallows of the best water I had ever tasted. I extended my arm to return the flask, and once again lurched forward into his chest. I didn't mean to rest my cheek against the smooth fabric of his overtunic, but it was soft, and I was so very tired. He scooped me up in his arms, and then stood there wondering what to do with me. He eyed the wagon steps, taking them two at a time. His movements were quick and deft. I was deposited in bed, covers were settled, and pillows were plumped. Before Ser Bacanyi could straighten, Eliphus called my name as he trod up the wagon steps. "What's this?" Eliphus asked, his bass baritone sounding all gravel and growl. Xanthes stamped a sizable foot, and I could hear the leather of his tack shift. The tension between the two men was palpable. Then Eliphus said the strangest thing. "I told you I would get you back, and I won't let them take you, not again." Eliphus Grace. I was worried about Ariante. Soba had not overstated the severity of her concussion. Thank the stars she was mending, if slower than I would like. As soon as the sun nudged its way above the horizon, I was out, walking the perimeter of our camp. Will it return? I wondered. Will more follow? Rubbing the scar at my throat, I prayed the decomp had moved on. Truth be told, decomps had followed us since Ariante had come into my life. And Toby, I reminded myself, maimed and mute Toby, whose presence was a daily reminder of my biggest failure. Before then, I had served on the Learned Council in Renatus, preserving scholarship of the past and serving the people as a history singer. Earth, I couldn't resist saying it aloud. A sigh of constructed memory. Many of our origin myths said that the gods transported 10,000 of our ancestors here to New Earth, shortened over the years to simply Nurth. Even then, we were looking backward. Thousands of years later, our patchwork civilization remains a mix of remnant tech and feudal fiefdoms. I could hear the faint jangle of kettles as Soba organized breakfast. The whiff of coffee brewing carried me back to my life at the Scola. I was an eager student of almost lost languages, but it was the stories those dead tongues told that I cherished. Songs of gods and mortals, of their great deeds and greater tragedies. I had spent my life digging among the bones of our history, recovering the song our ancient kin had sung in times that were a dim memory when even they were young. For all of my devotion to history, I had precious little knowledge of our home planet and how we came to Nurth. But the decomps changed that. With their arrival, I began to ask the right questions. Their appearance was terrifying and revolting, but they were the living link, almost living link, to the events that brought us to Nurth. Your head is too full of the past, old fool, I thought. I tilted my head back to breathe in the still air of early morning. Nothing, no scent of death. My shoulders dropped, letting go of a tension I hadn't been aware of. I did not have to tell Ariante about the decomps. Not today, anyway. My feet had taken me close to the river. I didn't love swimming as Aria and Toby did, but the grime of yesterday's journey to River's End prompted me to strip and wade into the chill water. The shock of it cleared my mind as it cleansed my body. I hadn't felt such a bone-deep numbness since the night Sebastian had forced my hand and taken Bacanyi for his own. I whispered Bacanyi's name, shivering from the icy water and the memory of that night. Drying off with my shirt, I winced as the scars on my back twisted and pulled. If Soba saw my discomfort, she would rub my back with an unguent that could be smelled from a league away. It was the source of much merriment among the troop, who called me the King of Tears. In my obsession to protect Ariante and understand the true nature of her gift, I had caused harm to people I loved. I had lied to everyone and killed when I had to. Perhaps I am the King of Tears, I said to the rising sun. As I had done so many times before, I put the past behind me. The great wheel had turned. Bacanyi and I were together once more. The thought made my legs swift and strong as I ran back to camp, to Soba, to coffee, to my faithful comrades, and the future. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I have a small ask. To make it easy for you or your friends to follow the show, just use this link. It goes like this: followthepodcast.com/historysinger. That's it. Easy. Also, if you'd like to leave a rating and review to help others discover the show, I have an easy link for that too. Simply go to lovethepodcast.com/historysinger. You know, I thought I made this podcast for me because I felt compelled to tell this story. Now, I realize I really made it for you.